Chosen one, before your eyes grow heavy and the world tells you it can wait until morning, listen closely, because this moment right now is not accidental. And this message did not find you by chance. Something led you here tonight. Something nudged you to pause instead of scrolling past, to listen instead of sleeping, to stay awake just a little longer. And deep down, you already know why. There are moments when time feels ordinary, and then there are moments when time leans in close and whispers that everything is about to change. This is one of those moments. Tonight is not like other nights. Tonight carries weight. Tonight carries instruction. Tonight carries a quiet urgency that your spirit recognizes even if your mind is still catching up. You've been strong for a long time, strong in silence, strong when nobody clapped, strong when it felt like your prayers hit the ceiling and fell back down unanswered. You've carried responsibilities that were never meant to be yours alone. You've smiled when you wanted to scream. You've stayed kind in rooms that rewarded cruelty. And there were nights when you lay awake staring into the dark, asking yourself if any of it mattered, if anyone saw, if anything was shifting at all. What you didn't know is that while you thought nothing was happening, everything was being recorded. Every decision, every restraint, every time you chose faith over fear, patience over impulse, integrity over shortcuts, nothing was wasted. Not one tear, not one lonely step forward. But hear this clearly, because this is where many people miss it. There is a window that opens and there is a window that closes. Grace gives warning before the shift, and tonight is that warning. Tomorrow will not feel the same as today, not because tomorrow is cruel, but because tomorrow responds to what you do tonight. The posture of your heart when you go to sleep determines the atmosphere you wake up into. This is not superstition. This is alignment. There are decisions you don't make with your hands, but with your willingness, with your surrender, with your courage to say, I'm ready, even if I'm afraid. You've outgrown certain versions of yourself, but part of you has been clinging to what's familiar because it feels safe. Safe pain still feels safer than unfamiliar peace. But the season you're entering doesn't negotiate with comfort. It requires honesty. It requires you to stop pretending that you're fine with delays that have already expired. There are patterns you were allowed to survive, not settle in. There are relationships that were permitted to shape you, not define your future. And tonight, something is asking you to loosen your grip. Not aggressively, not dramatically, just enough to let go. You may not realize it yet, but you are being repositioned quietly, strategically, not in a way that draws attention, but in a way that builds authority. That's why things have been falling away without explanation. That's why certain doors closed without apology. That's why people you thought would stay suddenly became distant. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You don't take everything with you into the next chapter. Some weights were only meant for the training ground, not the race ahead. Tonight is about awareness, about choosing not to sleep through a moment that was designed to awaken you, because once the shift happens, you won't get the same invitation again. Not because it's cruel, but because growth doesn't repeat lessons once they're offered clearly. There are insights that only come when the world is quiet and defenses are down, when you're not performing for anyone, when it's just you and the truth you've been avoiding. And let me say this gently, because this isn't condemnation. You've been waiting for a sign while ignoring the instructions you already received. You've been asking for clarity while delaying obedience. You've been hoping for momentum while holding on to habits that slow you down. Tonight isn't about receiving something new. It's about responding to what's already been placed in your spirit. The nudge you keep feeling, the idea you keep postponing, the conversation you keep avoiding, the boundary you know you need to set. These are not random thoughts. They are assignments. Chosen one, tomorrow will test whether tonight mattered. Not with fireworks or dramatic announcements, but with subtle choices, with how you speak when no one is listening, with what you prioritize when nobody is watching, with whether you reach for the same distractions or choose a higher discipline. And that's why this matters so much, because destiny is rarely lost in one big mistake. It's lost in 100 small delays that felt harmless at the time. You are closer than you think, closer than your doubts suggest, closer than your circumstances reflect. But closeness still requires movement, even one step, even a whisper of commitment, even a quiet decision that says, I'm done negotiating with fear. You don't need to have it all figured out tonight. You don't need a full plan. You just need honesty and willingness. And fifth, courage to stop lying to yourself about what you're ready for. There is a reason this message reached you before sleep, because sleep resets the mind, but intention resets the spirit. What you carry into rest determines what wakes up with you. And if you go to sleep tonight telling yourself the same old stories, you wake up to the same old delays. But if you go to sleep with awareness, with humility, with readiness, Something will shift while you rest. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. You've spent enough nights surviving. This one is about preparing, about saying yes internally, even if nothing external changes yet, about trusting that what's unfolding doesn't need your panic, it needs your cooperation. There are forces working on your behalf that respond to faith, not frenzy, to stillness, not striving. And tonight is an invitation to be still without being passive, to rest without giving up, to believe without demanding proof. So before you close your eyes, check what you're holding, check what you're resisting, check what you've been postponing under the excuse of timing. Timing is not your enemy right now. Hesitation is. And once tomorrow arrives, the energy will be different. The silence will feel louder. The urgency will be replaced with consequence. That doesn't mean failure. It means responsibility. You were not chosen to rush, but you were chosen to respond. And responsiveness is what separates those who witness change from those who, talk about it later. Tonight is quiet, but it is powerful. Gentle, but decisive. Soft, but irreversible. And the part of you that feels a little uncomfortable right now is the part of you that knows this is real. Stay with that feeling. Don't numb it. Don't explain it away. Let it speak. Let it surface. Because it's trying to prepare you for what comes next. And what comes next will require a version of you that is honest, awake, and willing to move when the moment calls, even if the path ahead isn't fully lit yet, even if the answers arrive one at a time, even if the first step feels smaller than you expected, because sometimes the most critical shift doesn't announce itself loudly. It begins as a quiet internal decision made in the stillness of the night, just before sleep, when you finally admit to yourself that you can't keep doing things the same way and expect a different outcome, and that tomorrow doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be aligned, and that alignment starts with what you choose to do with this awareness right now as you lie there, breathing, thinking, feeling, realizing that something is asking you to prepare, to release, to commit, and to recognize that the door you've been standing in front of is not locked. It's waiting for you to stop doubting your right to open it. And as you sit with that truth, you may begin to notice that the resistance you felt wasn't coming from the future at all, but from the part of you that knows once you stay forward, there will be no going back. And that realization alone is enough to make this moment matter more than any other tonight, because what you choose to acknowledge before you sleep will quietly shape the version of you that wakes up ready or hesitant, aware or distracted, prepared or delayed. And the difference between those versions is determined by whether you allow this moment to fully land or whether you push it aside and tell yourself you'll deal with it later, even though deep down you already know that later has been costing you more than you realize, and that the next phase of your life is not waiting for permission, it's responding to readiness. And readiness begins the instant you decide that this message was meant for you, and that what it's stirring inside you is not something to ignore, but something to honor. As you remain still for a few more seconds, letting the weight of it settle, letting the urgency sharpen, letting the truth rise, because once you fall asleep, the opportunity doesn't disappear, but the way it presents itself will change. And how you respond when you wake will depend on whether you allowed yourself to fully receive this now, or whether you turned away at the edge of understanding. And right here in this pause is where the next chapter quietly waits for your response. And as you stay with this stillness a little longer, you may start to notice how rare it is for life to slow down enough for you to actually hear yourself. Most days are loud with expectations, notifications, obligations, and unspoken pressures, but tonight is different. Tonight feels like a pause between breaths, like the moment just before a tide turns. You're not being rushed, but you are being invited. There's a difference. One comes from fear, the other from purpose. And the invitation is simple, even if it feels heavy. Be honest about where you are and brave about where you're being led. You've spent a long time learning how to endure, and endurance taught you discipline, patience, and depth. But endurance is not the final destination. There comes a moment when endurance must give way to expansion, when surviving is no longer enough, and something inside you starts asking for more room to breathe. That's the restlessness you've been feeling, not dissatisfaction, not ingratitude, but readiness. A signal that the container you're in can no longer hold the version of you that's forming. You didn't imagine the pressure increasing. You didn't misread the signs. The intensity was intentional. Pressure reveals alignment. It shows you where you're resisting growth and where you're ready to stretch. And the reason it's felt personal is because it is personal. This isn't about proving anything to the world. It's about responding to the quiet, knowing that you were meant for impact, not invisibility, for influence, not isolation, for purpose, not perpetual waiting. Think back to the last few months, the repeated lessons, the same themes showing up in different forms, the conversations that left you thinking longer than expected, the delays that forced you to confront parts of yourself you'd been avoiding. None of that was random. Patterns repeat until they're integrated. And tonight you're being asked to integrate what you've learned instead of asking for another sign. There's a subtle shift that happens when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this preparing me for? That shift alone changes how you move through tomorrow. It changes your posture, your tone, your patience. It turns frustration into focus. And focus is powerful because focused energy stops leaking into distractions that don't serve you. You may feel a strange mix of exhaustion and anticipation right now, tired of the old, curious about the new, but not fully convinced it's safe to step forward. That's normal. Growth often feels like standing on the edge of something familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. One foot in what you know, one foot in what you hope for. And the tension you feel isn't a warning to stop. It's a signal that you're awake. What's important tonight is not that you solve everything, but that you stop numbing what you feel, because numbness delays transformation. You can't heal what you refuse to feel. You can't move toward clarity while avoiding discomfort. And the clarity you're seeking isn't hiding. It's waiting for your willingness to sit with truth instead of escaping into noise. You've been strong for so long that part of you forgot it's okay to be receptive, to receive guidance, to receive support, to receive direction without immediately questioning whether you deserve it. But you do. You've earned this moment through consistency, through restraint, through faith, when it would have been easier to quit or compromise. And now the next phase requires a different kind of strength, not the strength to carry everything alone, but the strength to trust the process unfolding. There's something you've been postponing because it feels inconvenient or risky or too big to deal with right now. It keeps coming back to your mind at quiet moments like this. That's not coincidence. That's alignment calling for attention. And postponement doesn't make it disappear, it just gives it more power over your peace. Facing it doesn't mean everything changes overnight. It means you stop leaking energy by avoiding what's asking to be addressed. Tomorrow doesn't demand perfection from you. It demands presence, awareness, intention, the willingness to move differently even if the environment hasn't changed yet, because often the environment responds after you do. Momentum follows decision, not the other way around, and the smallest internal decision can create the biggest external shift over time. You might be waiting for confidence to arrive before you act, but confidence is built through action, not contemplation. Clarity comes from movement, even gentle movement, even imperfect steps, especially imperfect steps. And the fear you feel isn't proof that you're unqualified, it's proof that what's ahead matters. Let go of the idea that you have to be fully ready to begin. Readiness is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to move despite it. And you've already moved more than you give yourself credit for. You're here, you're listening, you're allowing yourself to consider the possibility that your life is on the edge of something meaningful. Tonight is about recalibration, about realigning with who you are becoming rather than who you've been trying to outgrow, about understanding that endings don't always look dramatic. Sometimes they look like quiet resolve, sometimes they look like acceptance. Sometimes they look like choosing rest instead of rumination, truth instead of avoidance, intention instead of habit. As you breathe, notice where you're holding tension. That tension has a story. It's been carrying unspoken decisions, delayed boundaries, unexpressed needs. You don't have to resolve them all now, but you do have to acknowledge them. Awareness is the first act of change. Without awareness, patterns run unchecked. With awareness, you regain authorship. You were never meant to shrink to fit circumstances that were designed to stretch you. And the reason certain paths no longer satisfy you is because you've already extracted the lesson from them. Staying longer won't make them feel better. It will only make you feel smaller. Growth asks for courage, not comfort, and courage isn't loud. Sometimes it's just a quiet, yes, whispered into the dark. There's a version of you that already knows how this unfolds. Not in detail, but in essence. A version of you that trusts their instincts, honors their boundaries, and moves with calm authority instead of anxious urgency. That version isn't distant, it's close. It's forming now, shaped by moments like this where you choose awareness over autopilot. You do. Need validation from people who can't see where you're going. Not everyone is meant to understand your timing. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into the next chapter. And that's okay. Alignment often feels lonely at first because it requires honesty, and honesty disrupts comfortable illusions. If you're feeling a quiet sense of seriousness settle in, let it. This isn't heaviness, it's clarity. It's the feeling that comes when you realize life is responding to you, not happening to you. And response requires responsibility, the good kind, the kind that empowers rather than burdens. What you do tonight matters because it sets the tone. Not through effort, but through intention, through what you decide to release, what you decide to claim, what you decide to stop questioning. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to explain it. Some decisions are sacred because they're private. Tomorrow will present choices that look ordinary on the surface. How you speak, how you listen, what you tolerate, what you decline. Those small choices accumulate, they compound, and over time they create distance between who you were and who you're becoming. That distance is not loss, it's growth. You are not behind. You are not late. You are right on time for the version of you that's ready to step forward consciously instead of accidentally. And tonight is simply a checkpoint, a moment to look inward and decide whether you'll move into tomorrow with the same patterns or with an EU level of awareness. Rest doesn't mean retreat. Sleep doesn't mean disengagement. When you rest with intention, your mind continues to integrate what your spirit has already accepted. And when you wake up, you may not feel dramatically different, but you will notice subtle shifts, a steadiness, a clarity, a reduced tolerance for what no longer aligns. Trust those shifts. Don't rush to explain them away. Don't ignore them out of habit. They are signals that something is reorganizing internally, that your priorities are recalibrating, that your energy is being redirected toward what actually matters. You've spent enough time questioning whether you're capable. The question now is whether you're willing to show up differently, willing to stop negotiating with what you already know, willing to let go of the need to control outcomes and instead commit to aligned action. This moment doesn't ask you to change everything. It asks you to change one thing, your relationship with your own knowing, to trust it, to honor it, to move with it rather than against it, because resistance is exhausting and alignment is energizing even when it's challenging. As the night deepens, allow yourself to settle into this awareness, not with anxiety, but with respect. Something meaningful is unfolding and you are part of it, not as a passive observer, but as an active participant whose choices shape the direction ahead. And when you finally close your eyes, let go of the urge to replay. Why every detail? You've received what you needed for now. The rest will reveal itself in time. What matters is that you didn't ignore the call, that you stayed present, that you allowed yourself to listen. Because moments like this don't demand immediate answers. They ask for readiness, for humility, for courage. And the fact that you're still here, still engaged, still open, is already a response. One that tomorrow will quietly build upon as you step forward into a day that looks ordinary on the surface, but carries the weight of everything you acknowledged tonight. Everything you released, everything you chose to face, and everything you are preparing to become as this awareness settles deeper, shaping your thoughts, your actions, your reactions, guiding you gently but firmly toward a path that has been forming all along, waiting for you to recognize it and continue walking with intention rather than hesitation, allowing the momentum to grow naturally as you move forward without rushing, without retreating, staying attentive to the subtle shifts that confirm you are no longer the same person you were before this moment, and that the quiet resolve forming inside you now will continue to strengthen as the night holds you in stillness and prepares you for what comes next. And even as the night stretches on, there is a gentle sense that something unseen is rearranging itself around you, not loudly, not dramatically, but with intention. Like furniture being moved in the dark by hands that know exactly where everything belongs. You don't have to witness it to trust it. Some of the most important changes happen beyond your line of sight. And that's why faith has been required of you more than certainty. Certainty would have made this easy, but faith has been making you strong. There's a part of you that has been waiting for permission, waiting for reassurance, waiting for someone to confirm what you already feel. But the truth is, the confirmation you're looking for doesn't come from outside voices. It comes from alignment, from that calm, steady sense that you're no longer fighting yourself. When resistance fades, clarity grows. And clarity doesn't shout. It settles. You've noticed how certain things no longer excite you the way they used to. How conversations that once felt important now feel repetitive. How goals that once motivated you now feel incomplete. That's not boredom. That's evolution. It's the signal that you've extracted what you needed from that level, and staying there any longer would only delay what's next. What's next won't announce itself all at once. It will come in impressions, nudges, small opportunities that test whether you're paying attention. And attention is the currency of this next season, where you place it, how you protect it, what you allow to consume it. Distraction has been the greatest enemy of your progress, not because you're weak, but because you're capable of more than you've been giving yourself credit for. You've been learning discernment even when you didn't realize it, learning when to speak and when to stay quiet, when to push and when to pause, when to hold on and when to release. These lessons weren't glamorous, but they were necessary. Discernment is what allows you to move with precision instead of impulse, and precision will matter where you're headed. There will be moments ahead where the temptation to revert will appear. Old habits calling your name, old fears reminding you of past disappointments, old voices questioning whether this path is worth it. Those moments aren't setbacks, they're confirmations, proof that you're moving far enough forward for resistance to notice. Growth always attracts opposition, even internal opposition. The key will be remembering what this moment gave you. Not excitement, but resolve. Not urgency, but awareness. Awareness that you don't have to rush to prove anything, that your power comes from steadiness, from consistency, from choosing alignment even when no one is watching. You don't need to announce your changes. Let them speak through your actions, through your boundaries, through the way you protect your energy. People will notice the difference without you explaining it, and some will misunderstand it. That's okay. Misunderstanding is often the price of growth. You can't evolve and stay fully relatable to every version of yourself you're leaving behind. There is a quiet authority forming in you. Not dominance, not control, but self-respect, the kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that doesn't chase approval, the kind that knows when to walk away without resentment. That authority will shape how you move through tomorrow, even in small interactions, especially in small interactions. You may wake up tomorrow expecting fireworks, some dramatic sign that everything changed overnight. More likely, you'll wake up to subtlety, to a different tone inside your thoughts, to a lower tolerance for chaos, to a clearer sense of what deserves your time and what doesn't. Don't dismiss those shifts. They're the foundation of lasting transformation. You spent enough time reacting. This next chapter is about responding. Responding with intention instead of impulse. Responding with wisdom instead of habit. Responding from a grounded place rather than a wounded one. And that kind of response can only come from someone who has done the inner work, someone who has faced themselves honestly in moments like this. There will be days when progress feels slow, when you wonder if anything is actually happening. Remember this night, remember that growth is not always visible in real time. Roots grow in darkness before anything breaks the surface. And the deeper the roots, the stronger the structure they support. You are not meant to carry everyone with you. Some connections were seasonal. Some lessons were temporary. Holding on out of loyalty to the past can prevent you from honoring the future. Release doesn't mean rejection. It means recognition. Recognition that your path requires space to unfold. As you rest, allow your mind to stop trying to manage outcomes. You don't need to solve tomorrow tonight. You only need to trust that you're being guided step by step. Guidance often comes after commitment, not before. Once you move, the path reveals itself. Once you choose, clarity follows. You've already chosen more than you realize. Choosing to listen, choosing to stay present, choosing to take this moment seriously instead of brushing it aside. Those choices matter. They set things in motion that don't need your constant supervision. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is get out of your own way. There is strength in stillness, strength in restraint, strength in knowing when not to act. You've been practicing that strength even when it felt like nothing was happening. But something was happening. You were becoming someone who can be trusted with more responsibility, more influence, more impact, more peace. And peace is not the absence of challenge. It's the presence of alignment within challenge. It's knowing who you are even when circumstances fluctuate. As this awareness settles deeper, you may feel a sense of calm mixed with seriousness. That combination is intentional. Calm keeps you grounded. Seriousness keeps you committed. Together, they create momentum that isn't frantic or forced, but steady and sustainable. You don't have to fear the changes ahead. AR usually comes from imagining loss, but what you're actually stepping into is refinement. You're not losing yourself, you're shedding what was never truly you. The masks, the coping mechanisms, the compromises you made just to get by. What remains is something stronger and more authentic. Trust that authenticity. Let it guide your decisions. Let it inform your boundaries. Let it shape your priorities. The more you align with it, the less you'll need external confirmation. Your internal compass will become clearer. There will be moments when the old world tries to pull you back with familiarity. Familiar struggles, familiar dynamics, familiar disappointments, familiar comforts, familiar pain. Familiar pain can feel safer than unfamiliar growth. But safety is not the same as fulfillment. And you didn't come this far to stay comfortable. You came this far to become whole. Wholeness requires integration, integrating your strength with your softness, your ambition with your patience, your intuition with your logic. You are not meant to choose one over the other. You are meant to balance them. And balance is learned through awareness, not force. As you continue resting in this moment, let your breathing slow, let your shoulders drop, let the urgency soften into intention. You don't need to hold everything together tonight. You just need to allow what's already aligning to continue doing its work. Tomorrow will give you opportunities to practice what you felt tonight, to pause before reacting, to choose differently in small ways, to listen more closely to your inner guidance. Those small practices compound. Over time, they change everything. You may not feel ready. That's okay. Readiness is often recognized in hindsight. What matters is that you're willing to trust, willing to move, willing to release, willing to grow, willing to honor the process even when it's uncomfortable. There is a quiet confidence forming in you, one that doesn't rely on outcomes to feel justified. That confidence will carry you through uncertainty. It will remind you that you don't need to have all the answers to take the next step. You just need to take the step that's in front of you. And as the night continues to hold you, remember that this moment was not about pressure. It was about preparation, about tuning your awareness, about reminding you that you are not drifting aimlessly. You're being shaped intentionally, even when the shaping happens slowly. Stay open, stay attentive, stay grounded. Let this awareness settle into your body, your thoughts, your intentions. Let it influence how you wake, how you move, how you choose. You don't need to rush to name it or define it. Some things gain power by remaining unnamed until they're ready to be lived. And so you remain here, not anxious, not passive, but present, allowing the stillness to do what it does best, allowing the clarity to deepen, allowing the resolve to strengthen, knowing that what matters most is not how loudly this moment announces itself, but how deeply it roots itself within you as the night continues, as your mind grows quieter, as your awareness sharpens, as the path ahead begins to feel less like a question and more like a direction you are slowly, steadily, unmistakably beginning to move toward. And as that direction becomes clearer, you may begin to sense that the urgency you once felt has transformed into something steadier, something grounded. Urgency pushes, readiness pulls. You are no longer being shoved forward by pressure, but gently drawn by purpose. That difference matters because what pulls you forward sustains you longer than what forces you to move. There were times when you wondered if you were being left behind, if life was passing you while others surged ahead. But timing is not a race, it's a sequence. You were not delayed, you were being refined. While others were gathering noise, you were gathering depth. While others were chasing momentum, you were building foundation. And foundations are invisible until they're needed. You've learned how to sit with discomfort without letting it define you, how to face uncertainty without collapsing into fear, how to keep your heart open even when disappointment tempted you to shut down. These were not accidental traits. They were developed intentionally, shaped by circumstances that required you to grow inwardly before expanding outwardly. There is a quiet maturity in you now that didn't exist before. A patience that doesn't feel like waiting anymore, but like trust. Trust that what belongs to you cannot miss you. Trust that what is meant for you will align with you, not exhaust you. Trust that you don't have to chase what is already on its way. This trust changes how you show up. It changes how you listen. It changes how you respond to setbacks. Instead of spiraling, you pause. Instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of assuming the worst, you ask what's being revealed. That shift alone protects your energy and sharpens your focus. You are beginning to understand that not every challenge is an obstacle. Some are confirmations that you're on the right path. Resistance often increases when alignment deepens. That doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means what you're doing matters. There will be moments when old doubts resurface, trying to pull you back into familiar narratives. When that happens, don't argue with them. Simply acknowledge them and choose differently. Doubts lose power when they're not fed with attention. You don't have to convince yourself you're fearless. You just have to refuse to let fear make your decisions. Your discernment has sharpened. You can feel when something is off, even if you can't explain why. You can sense when something aligns, even if it doesn't look impressive yet. That inner sensing is not imagination. It's intuition strengthened through experience. Trust it. It has been quietly guiding you all along. You may notice that your tolerance for chaos has decreased, for drama, for environments that drain rather than nourish. That's not arrogance, that's self-respect. You're learning that peace is not something you find after everything is settled. It's something you choose, even when things are still unfolding. Choosing peace doesn't mean avoiding challenge. It means engaging challenge from a grounded place, from clarity instead of confusion, from intention instead of impulse. And that choice will shape the quality of everything you build from here. You are stepping into a phase where alignment matters more than approval, where authenticity matters more than acceptance, where truth matters more than comfort. That shift will simplify your life even as it deepens it. You'll find yourself letting go of what no longer fits without over-explaining. You'll stop seeking permission for choices that feel right in your spirit. There will be fewer distractions, not because the world is quieter, but because you're more selective. Your attention is becoming precious. You're learning that where you place, it determines how you feel, how you think, how you grow. And you're no longer willing to waste it on what doesn't contribute to your evolution. This doesn't make you detached, it makes you intentional. You still care deeply, but you care wisely. You invest where there is reciprocity. You show up where there is alignment. You conserve energy where there is resistance without purpose. As you rest in this awareness, notice how your breathing has changed, how your body feels less tense, how your thoughts feel less scattered. That's not accidental. That's what happens when inner conflict begins to resolve, when parts of you that were pulling in different directions start moving together. Integration brings peace, and peace brings clarity, and clarity brings confidence. Not the loud kind that needs to announce itself, but the quiet kind that doesn't waver under pressure. You may not realize it yet, but people will start responding to you differently. Not because you demanded respect, but because you embody it. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped abandoning yourself to fit into spaces that couldn't hold you. Your voice will feel steadier. Your decisions will feel cleaner. Your boundaries will feel less negotiable. And all of this will happen without force, without confrontation, without drama, just alignment expressing itself naturally. You've learned that growth doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like shedding, like endings, like pauses, like uncertainty. But those moments were not empty. They were transitional. They were making room for clarity, for purpose, for peace, for opportunities that require a version of you that is present, grounded, and self-aware. As this night continues, you are not being asked to do more. You're being asked to trust more, to allow what's unfolding to unfold without interference, to stop second-guessing what feels right just because it feels unfamiliar. Familiarity is not the same as truth. You're learning that now, and learning it will save you years of unnecessary struggle. Tomorrow, you may feel a subtle shift in how you approach your day. You may pause where you used to rush. You may speak where you used to stay silent. You may walk away where you used to overextend. These are not small changes. They are indicators of transformation. Transformation doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It reveals itself in consistency, in the quiet accumulation of aligned choices, in the steady narrowing of the gap between who you are and how you live. You are becoming congruent, and congruence is powerful because it removes internal friction. When your values, actions, and intentions align, you move with ease even when the path is challenging. There will still be challenges, still unknowns, still moments of doubt, but they will no longer derail you. They will inform you, teach you, refine you. You are not fragile. You are flexible. And flexibility is what allows you to adapt without losing yourself. As you continue to rest, let go of the need to monitor progress. Growth doesn't require constant checking. It requires patience, trust, and consistent alignment. You don't need to prove that this moment matter, Ed. Its impact will reveal itself naturally in how you think and how you choose and how you show up. And one day you'll look back and realize that this night was not dramatic, but it was decisive. Not loud, but foundational. Not overwhelming, but clarifying. For now, stay present, stay open, stay grounded. Allow this awareness to continue settling into your being, shaping your intentions, guiding your steps, reminding you that you are not waiting for life to begin. You are already in it, actively participating through your choices, your attention, your willingness to grow. Let the night hold you a little longer. Let the stillness deepen. Let the clarity integrate. There is no rush. What is unfolding does not require haste. It requires trust. And as you move closer to sleep, know that rest is not disengagement. It is integration. Your mind and spirit are aligning, organizing, preparing. You are not stepping into tomorrow as the same person you were before this moment. You are stepping forward with greater awareness, greater intention, greater alignment. And that difference, though subtle now, will continue to expand, shaping your path, influencing your decisions, strengthening your resolve, guiding you forward one step at a time as the quiet momentum builds beneath the surface, carrying you toward what has been waiting patiently for you to be ready, to be aware, to be willing to continue moving in alignment with the direction that is now no longer a mystery, but a felt, sense within you steady and clear, unfolding naturally as you remain present in this moment and allow it to continue doing its work. And now, as this message comes to rest within you, let it seal what has already been awakened rather than rush you toward action. You were never meant to leave this moment overwhelmed or pressured, but grounded, aware, and quietly resolved. What matters most is not what you do immediately, but who you choose to be from this point forward. The strength forming in you is not loud, but it is real. The clarity settling in you is not dramatic, but it is decisive. You don't need to chase tomorrow or fear it. You are prepared to meet it with presence, with intention, and with trust in the path unfolding beneath your feet. So carry this awareness gently as you move forward. Let it guide your choices without forcing them. Let it remind you that you are not late, not forgotten, and not drifting without purpose. You are aligned, becoming and moving exactly as you need to. What was meant to reach you tonight has done its work, and what comes next will meet you at the right moment, in the right way, as you continue forward with a steady heart, a clear spirit, and the quiet knowing that the chapter ahead is not something to fear, but something you are finally ready to live.